Greetings, Business 310 students. In this video, I'm going to walk through an activity that you can choose to do either with your own report draft if you're ready, or working from an outline if that's the point you're at in this assignment, or if you'd rather just do this with a sample document written by a student who has generously shared it with us to use as a sample, you can do that too. Basically, there's going to be three general areas that we're going to be working, and in this tutorial, we'll be working in Microsoft Word. I use Mac operating system, and so I mentioned that just in case my version of Word looks a little bit different than one you might be using. That's okay. One thing I'll say is that all of the functions, both here in Microsoft Word, are also available in Google Docs, and we're going to start out with heading levels. We'll say a little bit about heading levels and how they relate to the other two parts that we're going to work through as well. Heading levels provide internal digital structure or infrastructure to a document that you're writing. And something that a lot of writers will do is prepare a document, and they'll use things like bold font or larger size font and other things to make it look really nicely structured. But if you're not using the style tools that are built into the word processor like Word, it's really important to know that that structure that's kind of digital and behind the scenes just won't be there. There's a lot of reasons why it's important. I'll show you in this video that by doing heading levels, you can work right into building a table of content in an automated way, which is really nice. It saves a lot of time, especially if you're working on a longer paper. And then it also lends itself to a more digitally accessible document. And by that, I just mean a digital document that someone who is using a screen reader might use. These are fairly common for people with impaired vision or blindness, so that they can read your paper without being able to look at the screen. And increasingly, digital accessibility is important when it comes to automatic readers reading a document for things like a resume that you might submit for a job application. So we'll work through this. As I said, you can follow along and just watch. You can use the sample paper. Really, if you want to get the most out of this, though, I encourage you to apply these principles to your own report. So this detailed page is available on Canvas. I'm going to work through the highlights here and kind of talk through it a little bit more quickly as we go along. As I said, one really important thing here, documents can look like they have heading levels when really all the person who wrote it has done has just made things bold or highlighted or italicized. So they're not the same thing, and this is going to show you the difference. Let's start here with headers. If you have not already done so, this will be the sample paper. It's titled Sample Paper for Heading Level Activity. And the actual title here is Aircraft Emissions. A former student, Joseph Berry, has offered to share this. And it's going to be a little bit different than the assignment that you're working on for this class. But in terms of structure, there's enough similarity that we can use this. So the way to see heading levels, really importantly, I'll go through this step kind of simply, is going to be under the View menu right here, and then clicking the little checkbox for navigation pane. So you should get this kind of bar that opens up on the left-hand side of the screen with a couple views. Right now it's thumbnail views of the pages, but if you click the thing that looks like bullet points, at present you'll notice that there's nothing in this area. There's just some lines that are white and gray. So we can scroll through and just take a quick look here at the sample report, though, and see that it looks like there are some headings. We've got background, greenhouse emissions, Paris Agreement. There's a few different things, U.S. responsibility. So throughout the text, there is some structure that's built in. We just don't have any of it here digitally. So you've downloaded the paper and opened up the navigation pane. So we're going to start by creating a level 1 heading. And the nice thing is we don't have to actually change any of the text. We're going to create the word here, background, as a level 1 heading. And we're going to just select it right there. Depending on how things are set up in your word processor, it might change things up a little bit. In this case, the font color changed. It also moved it to the left-hand side of the screen. That's fine. I'll tell you how to move it back if you want. So we've done that here. Change the background to heading 1. And we're going to repeat this for these other 2 headings, what is being done and executive summary all the way throughout. So just so we have a few other locations where we're doing this here. You can see there's even some images in this, and we're going to change what is being done. Heading 1, again, it changes it. And then down here at the very end, yeah, we can even do it with noise pollution if we want. Same thing. And executive summary. So you'll notice each time I have created a level 1 heading, we now get that title showing up over here in that navigation window. And the convenient thing is I'm on executive summary on page 13 right now. If I want to go back to the beginning at background, I just click it and it takes me right there. Hence the name navigation pane. It allows you to move around easy. If you're working on a much longer report, sometimes they can be 50, 70, 100 pages long. This is going to get you to where you need to be a lot faster than scrolling. So if you're following in the instructions, we've gone through create a level 1 heading. We're now going to move on to changing over the font size and type for level 1 heading. And this is really just an aesthetic adjustment. So remembering here that a moment ago when we changed over to heading level 1, it changed the font, it changed the color, and it changed it so that it was no longer centered but was left-hand justified. Suppose we want to go back. We want to maybe make it centered. Maybe we want to go back to having plain black font. Maybe we want to match the font again and keep this to be Times New Roman instead of Calibri. There we go. And maybe you want it bold. I think it was bold in the original. So I'm going to just take the highlighting off so we can look. And this is, for the time being, that's maybe what we like. The way to make this adjustment, if you look in the instructions, is going to be to get everything set the way you want it and then right-click on heading 1. And then importantly, this last step, update heading to match selection. So that's what we're going to do. And you can see right here that under heading 1, it looks like the text in the button should still be kind of the way it was before, blue and a different font. On my computer, I'm going to do a right-click and say update heading 1 to match selection. And you'll notice that it changes right here on heading 1. And the other thing is now if we switch back and look at any of the other 4 places where we've used heading 1, the font has been automatically updated to now be Times New Roman 16-point bold and black. It's no longer blue. It's no longer on the left-hand side. You can customize that any way you want. If you wanted to change this again and maybe instead of real dark black, you want to go actually back to blue. Same thing, update heading, and it's now all cases are blue. Let's move on. So this is how we've created a level 1 and updated the level 1. And we can keep going with this to create a level 2 heading. These are typically subheadings or subsections. I think for the sake of this sample, we're going to just look here at the beginning where there's a few subsections starting with greenhouse emissions. And the nice thing is if you figure out level 1, level 2 is really the same exact process. It's just heading 2 right here. And let's go ahead and do that to say Paris Agreement, heading 2. And U.S. responsibility, heading 2. So it's done the same thing for us. It's made the update where the font looks a little bit different. And again, it shows it over here in the navigation. And the really nice thing, if you're using multiple different heading levels, is heading level 1 will be in the navigation pane all the way to the left. And then any subheading, so heading level 2, nested within it will be below but slightly indented. And this is nice because you can jump around or you can collapse that and then just be looking at your level 1 headings or open it back up. So really, again, the goal here is we're building digital structure or digital organization to the paper that you're writing. And this is really what's going to take it from being a beginning first draft kind of report to being something that's closer to professional quality business writing. We can do the same process to designate the title. And in this case, I think Joseph has actually prepared a title page, which you don't have to do, but it really does make things look nice and professional. You'll notice here in the same space, in the same style ribbon here, there is a button for title, and we can go ahead and click it. It does the same kind of thing. It's going to change the font and change the justification. We can move it around if we want. We can change font, we can change color, all of that kind of stuff. And then same thing, just update it when you're done. And there it is. So if you're following the instructions, we're now done with part 1. We've set heading level 1. We've modified those fonts and updated throughout. We've done the same thing where we've set and updated level 2, and we've designated a title. That's actually where the bulk of the work is going to be. At the next step, we're going to really get to reap the benefits of all that work by creating an automated table of contents. So you will want to do this in order. You can move back and forth between the two, but it will work out best if you do the heading levels before you create a table of contents. In this case, I think what will be nice will be to just have a page for the table of contents that shows up between the title page and the report itself. And so the skill here is just to do a page break right here, page break, and I'm getting to this insert, page break. I've done that with my cursor, was right here after Joseph's name, and that's just going to be telling Word we want to have a page in between the title and the report itself, and that's where we're going to take the table of contents. So our next instruction here, number 3, place the cursor at the top of the blank page and then click references in order to get the table of contents. And then we can kind of work around with that. So I'm going to come here under references, and it's this icon here on my version of Word. It's on the top left section. If you click the little icon, you'll get a number of different style options. They're all going to probably have the same information. They'll just look a little bit different. I'll go ahead and click Classic. It's here at the top, but you can click whichever one you want. And there you get to see that in just a split second, it's going to use all of the style headings that you've created in the previous step to develop this table of contents. The nice thing is this is customizable, so if you keep working, you can update this. Update table right here would allow you to do that. So say you went back into the section on noise pollution and had another paragraph or two to write with a new subheading, you could do that. And in the same way that the navigation pane over here allows you to click and move around the document digitally, the same thing is true of the table of contents. You can click on it and it will take you directly to that section. So you can see that the table of contents right here is really just a version of this navigation window right over here. All the page numbers should be populated automatically and they should be correct. If you continue to work on the document, you can just come here and say update table, and it will give you the option to update the page numbers only or the entire table. And if you've made any changes, it would do that for you there. So at this point, you're done with part 1 and part 2. The document's probably looking really close to a final version of a document. This last step is one that kind of takes a little bit more skill to use, but if you can get in the practice of doing it, it's really going to bring your papers to a next level, and that's checking for digital accessibility. Now, the good news is that if you've been using style headings and all of the work that I've talked about so far in this tutorial, your paper should be more accessible than the average paper, I would say. But the nice thing is there's going to be tools built right into Microsoft Word to help us assess the accessibility, and then they'll also tell us how to make corrections if we need to do so. So looking back here to the paper, if we come up here into, let's see, our instructions are telling us that it's under Tools and check accessibility. Let's see here, under, I'm going to use it up here, Tools. There's usually more than one way you can get in here, and we could actually find this a different way too, but I know that under tools here, check accessibility. I'll show you another way to get there later. Another window pane will open up here off to the side. If you have a lot of things listed, that's an indicator that you've got some work to do to get the accessibility fixed. But in this case, it's going to tell us we've got a couple of errors, and we'll just click and see what these are and how to work on them. So if you click on it, it should take you directly to the issue. In this case, what we're looking at, it's a graph that shows the amount of jet fuel in gallons, millions of gallons, that are used by airlines each year. So kind of a great informational piece to look at here. And it's all color coded, and we've got the years on the x-axis, the fuel quantity up here on the vertical axis. And as you're looking at it, you can actually get a good sense of things. The problem here is if you have limited vision and maybe can't see, you would have no idea what's in this graph. And so what this is telling us here to do is you might want to fix this image by right-clicking it and then typing in what's called alt text in here. And you can say a little bit of information about what it is that we're seeing here, alt text. This just gives you a small text window, and you could say something like, this is a graph that shows jet fuel consumption. Yeah, and then you could give in more details as well about domestic, international, total, and things like that. So that's an example of what an accessibility issue might be. In this case, the only other issues I think are just related to these graphs. So the first issue being that we don't have text, and the second issue being that there's a little bit of alignment problems. If you were just scrolling through the page, you might not really notice this. These are things that are going to show up digitally. If you've got other things showing up here as far as your text, if you're using tables, for example, or other kinds of things that could be difficult to read, it will show up and let you know, and it will also tell you some steps on how you can fix it. So a couple of ways you can use the accessibility checker. Some people like to use it as you work along, check, and then recheck as you progress. The other way some people use it is they'll wait until closer to the end of a draft and then do it as kind of a last step and then fix everything before they call it done. So I'll wrap this up by just saying that in this tutorial, we've worked through these three general processes that you can use to improve the structure, navigability, and overall accessibility of a digital document. I've used the samples here that are available in Canvas with Microsoft Word. I will say that all of the same style tools and the accessibility checker also exist in Google Docs. If you have questions about this, let me know. I hope that you find this helpful and that experimenting with this improves the quality of your final reports. Thanks.